Are you immersed in a sea of business advice and education, but not sure what to embark on first? Instead of adding to the ocean of information, we're here to help you navigate it like a pro. The Wayfinding Growth podcast will help you take a deep dive into new actionable strategies, tools, and tactics to help you grow. So start charting a course for business growth as you explore a better way to grow further, faster, with your hosts, Remington and George B. Thomas.
And we're back. Can you believe it? No, I'm not going to do that. Like last episode or the episode before last, I said we finally made it to episode 2, which is, it was a funny joke then, but it's not funny now.
But we made it to episode 3.
We did actually
4.
past 3. This is 4. Yeah, it's hard to count when you're like doing things in advance and then you're
right.
doing things. But here's the deal. Today we have a super awesome guest. We have Marisa Smith from 87 Plus. Marisa, how are you doing today?
Oh, just great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited because I'll be honest, I know nothing about the topic that we're going to talk about today other than I read a book a couple years ago because somebody said read the book. And I also know this is a topic that a lot of companies really, really need to focus into. Remington, what are your thoughts on today's topic?
Sure. So I've known Marisa for a while, and I know back agency life side of things regarding the EOS, and I've read the book Traction and Get a Grip. And so there's some ways of thinking about growth and about companies and foundations and all that have been very compelling. And then come to find out that's what Marisa does and has been doing for a while. So I've heard her speak a couple of times about it, and some defining moments in growing and regrowing the agency have really kind of been attributed to that. So I'll let her explain EOS because she can do it a lot better than me.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because that is the book Traction that I read. And so why don't we just, Marisa, for a hot second, act like you're talking to me, the ignorant person in the room that's listening to the podcast. Oh, wait, you don't have to pretend that much. And give us the elevator pitch for what EOS is. And then also maybe give the audience the historical, like, well, this is what I've done and this is why you're about to get a crap ton of value in today's show.
Sure. So EOS is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's been around for about 10 or 12 years now. It was created by a guy named Gino Wickman, who is the author of the book Traction that you were referring to. He's a Detroit entrepreneur, and he created this system after working with a number of clients and noticing that the business owners that he was working with, the entrepreneurs, basically had the same set of issues over and over and over again. Regardless of industry, it didn't really matter, but it all came down to the same issues. And what he realized was that if you could strengthen 6 key components of your business, vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction, then you could start to break through the ceiling and start to solve some of the root issues that were causing the symptoms that everybody was feeling. And so what he did is he came up with this holistic system, and it's very simple, it's very practical, it's got a lot of timeless principles. So a lot of times when people read it, they recognize pieces of other things. But what's so genius about what Gino did is he took all of these timeless principles and wrapped them up into a cohesive, holistic operating system. And it's just simple, practical tools. And what it is it's focused on helping businesses get 3 things we call vision, traction, and healthy. So vision, meaning getting the leaders in the company 100% on the same page with where they're going as a company and what the plan is to get there. Traction, meaning helping the leaders become more focused and disciplined and accountable so they can actually execute on the vision. And then healthy, just meaning functioning as a more healthy and cohesive team. Because a lot of times you have strong individual leaders, they don't always work that well together as a team. So we work with the leadership teams initially. They get really good at those 3 things, start to master the tools, and then over time you roll it out to the rest of the company so that ultimately everybody's clear on the vision, everybody's more focused, disciplined, and accountable, and everybody's functioning as a more healthy team. So that's that's kind of the 30, that might have been 45-second overview of EOS. So
I love that. And so, Marisa, talk to the listeners historically, like, where do you fit into this space? Like, how did you get involved with it? How long have you been dealing with it? Like, do you eat, sleep, and drink this thing that is EOS?
I do. I feel like I do. So it was a little bit of a circuitous path. I first discovered EOS about 4 or 5 years ago. So I actually own a marketing agency, as Remington alluded to, called the Whole Brain Group, and it's in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I've owned that company for about 16 years. And about 10 years in to owning that business, I felt like I had just kind of hit the ceiling. Like I had this vision of where I wanted to go with the business, and I could not figure out how to get there. No matter how many hours I worked, no matter how many people I hired, it just felt like we were knocking our heads against the wall. And so I was complaining to a friend of mine about this, and he said, you've got to read this book, Traction. It's amazing. It's going to change your life. And so I read the book, and it was like, like, oh my God, why didn't I have this earlier? And so we started implementing the tools. And a couple years later, we ended up hiring a professional implementer, which is a person who's professionally trained and helping people implement these tools in their businesses. And around that same time, EOS Worldwide was hiring for marketing assistants. And so our implementer introduced me to Gino, the author of Traction and the founder of EOS, and said, you guys should talk because Marisa knows EOS and marketing, and you guys need help with your marketing. And a love connection was made. And so they hired me to be the marketing director and Whole Brain Group to be the marketing agency. And so for the last 4 years, we have executed, created the strategy and executed on all that marketing for EOS Worldwide. And so through that, I realized that I was really just in love with EOS, and started to tell other people about it. And I turned every talk I was giving ended up kind of being about EOS instead of about marketing, as you guys probably know. And so eventually I said, why am I just talking about this? Why don't I go do it? And so 2 years ago, I decided to become a professional implementer. I've slowly worked myself out of the day-to-day of my agency. So another team runs it now. I don't do anything there. Today is my last day as the marketing director at EOS Worldwide. And I'm going to be a full-time implementer starting on Monday. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I've been doing double duty for the last couple of years. I have 10 clients, and I'm working with a lot of companies right now, but I just couldn't work with any more and also do that other job. So it's time to burn the boats and just go do one thing. For the first time in, I think, 16 years, I'm going to have one job. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. So
you're going to have extra time. That's what you're going to do with yourself. And, it's funny. I vaguely remember a conversation at, I believe it was a HubSpot Partner Day, where you brought up, I think I want to do this thing. And I was like, girl, you got to follow your heart.
Yep.
Which it's awesome to see that kind of journey go through and rock and roll. Which, by the way, I realized by having you on this episode, we should also name this episode Hidden Scrabble Words, because I'm not sure what the first words you said is, but you got to rewind, because she said a word and I was like, that's got to be 54 points.
Oh.
I'm just saying.
I think it was circuitous.
That's it right there, people.
That was it.
I'm telling you, this is going to be the hidden word, Scrabble word episode. Now, here's the thing. You also mentioned, though, Marisa, tools. Like you said, hey, we went and got the tools.
Yep.
And so that's the perfect transition into our next section, which is navigational instruments. And that is the tools that people need to do this EOS thing. So what does that look like from a business standpoint? Like, what do we have to have in place, whether it be people or documents or things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So as I mentioned before, there were those 6 key components, right? The vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. So there's this EOS model that has those 6 key components. And there's 2 tools and 2 disciplines that we teach to help people strengthen each of those components, because ultimately you want to be 100% strong in all 6 of those components to be a strong and healthy company. And so there are these downloadable tools that you can get off of the EOS website that help you crystallize your vision. That's the first tool. So it's called the Vision Traction Organizer, VTO for short. And the Vision Traction Organizer is a simple 2-page plan that helps you and your leadership team answer 8 questions that are kind of fundamental to everything in your business. What are your core values? What's your core focus? What's your 10-year target? Your marketing strategy, your 3-year picture, your 1-year plan, your rocks, and your issues. There's 8 questions. And you work through a process of answering those questions, boiling it all down, simplifying, agreeing on it, and then documenting it on this 2-page tool. And then that really forms the foundation of almost everything you do from then on. So that's the first tool. The second tool is an accountability chart. So that's just helping you get really clear on what the right structure is for your company and what the roles and responsibilities are, so that you can get really clear on who's accountable, who owns each function in the business, and then get all the right people who match your core values into the right seats on the accountability chart, so that you make sure that everybody gets it, wants it, and has the capacity to do what you're asking them to do. So that's the accountability chart. There's a tool for running fantastic world-class meetings. I won't go into all that detail, but it's called a level 10 meeting. There's a scorecard tool that helps you track data. So there's 20 tools in the toolbox, but about 5 of them are foundational tools that we teach first. And then over time, we teach the other tools where it makes sense to pull them out of the toolbox. So lots of tools to use.
Oh my goodness, there is a ton of tools, but that's good because that means there's a foundation in place. Let's take a break from talking about EOS for just a hot second, because I have to let everybody know that's watching this, listening to this, that this episode is brought to you by, us at Impulse Creative, because nobody is sponsoring this 3-hour tour yet. Don't worry, it's actually not a 3-hour tour. That's a Gilligan Island reference, because we're on a voyage to learn more about EOS. But if you are somebody who wants to sponsor the show, give me a jingle, or get a hold of us at Impulse Creative. Remington, let's go ahead and keep on trucking.
Yeah, so the next section is charting your course. So in this section, we're going to go over like some details about how people can just jump in. So specifically, who needs to be the captain of the ship? Like, how does someone get started?
Great question. So there's actually a couple of different ways to get started. So the quick and dirty way is to buy a copy of Traction, read it, follow the instructions for implementing the tools. So you can download everything I just mentioned for free off of the EOS Worldwide website, kind of dive in and get going with that if you want. The way we recommend that you get started is to schedule a 90-minute meeting with a professional or certified implementer. And so most people kind of read the book and then decide they want to know more, and then they schedule a 90-minute meeting. 90-minute meetings are free. There's 200 implementers around the world, and all of us give our time freely to leadership teams who want to learn more about EOS. And what that is it paints a clear picture for the team about what done looks like, right? What it looks like to be strong in each of those 6 key components, so that the leadership team can decide if it's the right journey for them. So we really recommend that the whole leadership team participate in that, the owner, the president, the finance person, the marketing person, the salesperson, whoever the kind of the key leadership team members are. Because if you have the visionary coming in, the entrepreneur saying, hey, I read this great book, let's go implement it, everybody's going to go, oh, here we go again. Remington read another book, right? But if Remington says, hey, I'm bringing this expert in, right, to teach us what EOS is so we can decide together whether or not we want to move forward, we find that is more effective. So it's not just one person kind of dragging everybody in reluctantly. It's everybody getting excited about what the journey is going to look like. So, and then the third way is there's also something called Basecamp, which is an online system. And so if you decide to move forward with EOS and you don't want to work with an implementer, then you can go use Basecamp, because not everybody can afford to hire an implementer. But the 90-minute meeting, we recommend, regardless of whether or not you want to work with an implementer, it's still the best way to decide if it's right for you. And then from there, you can decide if that's the right implementer for you. They walk you through what the process is, and you get going. So
cool. So I got a couple questions there. Well, observation and a question. So the book Traction, I've read 7 times now. And it's funny because every single time, there's ebbs and flows in any business. Every single time that I read the book, it's at a different point in the business. And I find that there's like a takeaway each time that is completely different. Like I totally rolled right over the first time around. So it's very interesting. If you've read it, I urge you to read it again if it's been some time. So I'd say over the past 3 or 4 years. So yeah, every 6 months or so, I'm like, I should crack the book open again. It's been really cool. So the implementer thing, one of the things we want to make sure we do is your link for someone to talk to you about it is in our show notes. So make sure to give that to George. And we'll make sure it's on there.
I should probably explain what an implementer is real quick too. So an implementer, an EOS implementer, which is what I am, is just a teacher, coach, and facilitator, right? So what we do is we teach EOS purely what it means to run, purely as Gino intended it on EOS. We coach our teams to be their best, and so we're constantly kind of pushing them and showing them what 100% strong looks like, so that they're always raising the bar and raising their performance. And then facilitating just meaning, everybody's experts in their own business. So we're not trying to be consultants. We don't go in and tell people exactly what to do with their business or what decisions to make. We facilitate because the answers are almost always in the room already, right? They're smart, they get it. But sometimes you're so close to your own business that you can't see what the real issue is, and you can't get yourself to agreement or conclusion because you're just too close to it. So having that third-party person come in and help you facilitate, we tend to see the light bulbs go off more quickly because you've got an objective person in the room asking tough questions, and sometimes asking questions that you wouldn't ask yourself because you maybe don't really want to know the answer, from your own
For
team.
sure.
So yeah. So we're all professionally trained. We've all been through professional training, and it's the thing that we do full time. So we've got a lot of experience with it.
Cool. So if you are in management or the C-suite, how would you open the door to talking about EOS with your team? That's question one. And then question two is, if you are not in management and you think it would be great for your organization, how would you advise someone bring that in?
Great question. So if you are in management, the best thing to do is, schedule that 90-minute meeting, right? And just tell everybody, I've heard about this great system and I think it could help us. Let's get an overview of it and decide whether or not it's right for us, right? Some people give out copies of Traction to the team first and get them to read it first. But quite honestly, the 90-minute meeting is like a Cliff's Notes version of Traction anyways. So instead of waiting, 3 or 4 months for everybody to finally get around to reading it, it's typically going to be faster to just get that meeting scheduled and get somebody to come in and do it. It can be a little bit tougher, like you said, if you're not in management, to get that to bubble up. And so, typically just, giving a copy of the book to the owner and saying, that you've heard about it, or having somebody else who has implemented EOS, talk to the owner or the management team about it and share their experience, can be another way to do it. But it can be difficult to affect change when you are not on the leadership team. So sometimes you just have to plant those little seeds, and they'll hear about it enough and they'll finally go, okay, what's this Traction, book? What's this EOS stuff? I've heard about it 5 times now. It's time to learn more. So
for sure. Yeah. I've definitely given away quite a few books.
Or forward all the blog posts from the EOS Worldwide blog. There's 2 blog posts a week. So there's always something that, you can subtly say, hey, I thought you might be interested in this, to your boss. So
nice.
Yeah, a definite super pro tip is just gift the husband or wife of the leader the book, and then it ends up on their nightstand. Just saying. So, Marisa, here's the thing. I'm super curious, historically, and it's funny because you mentioned, hey, we asked the hard questions, and I don't know if the answer to the question that I'm about to ask is some of those hard questions, or maybe it's part of it, but where have businesses docked themselves historically when it comes to either EOS or not using it or not understanding it? Talk us through that a little bit.
When it comes to kind of hitting the ceiling, right? What I see in a lot of businesses of why they've hit the ceiling, many times it goes back to people. And a lot of times those same people who helped you get your business off the ground are not the same people who are going to help you take it to the next level. And you like these people, you feel loyal to them, and you're just not willing to admit to yourself that they're not the right people anymore, or they may not be in the right seats. You know, they may be great people for your culture, but they may not be capable of doing the kind of work that you need them to do to get you to that next level. And so, you know, when you get really crystal clear on your vision and get everybody seeing where you want to go, frequently what happens is people either step up and go, oh, I got to up my game if I'm going to help us get there, or they say to themselves, you know what, I'm not the right person and I'm going to self-select out. We see many more people self-selecting out of cultures than we do seeing people fire people out of cultures. And so it's just that whole, you know, the organization's outgrown the people. You need a different caliber sometimes, and that tends to hold people back because of that nostalgia or loyalty that they feel for their team. Processes are the other big thing that we run into a lot, is just what used to work when you first started, which was just yelling across the room at whoever that they needed to get something done, right? And now you have 30 people and you're distributed in 5 different states, and, you know, that just doesn't work anymore. You got to document stuff. And, you know, most entrepreneurs, that's not the first thing they want to do when they get out of bed in the morning, is document a process. And so again, having that person, you know, help you navigate that process of identifying your processes and documenting them can be really helpful as well. So, I mean, there's tons of things that people get stuck on, but those are 2 key ones that I see a lot. With EOS specifically, what I see causing failure is when they didn't get that buy-in to begin with, right? When the owner just came in, we're like, we're doing this, right? And everybody goes, okay, you know, but they didn't really get it and they didn't really understand it. And so that can lead to people just dragging their feet or not really doing the work that needs to be done. They're just not committed. When people are not willing to be open and honest in their communication, that's a big problem, because this takes a lot of tough conversations, tough decisions. And if you're just going to kind of stay on the surface and not be honest with one another, then you're not going to do well. And then either doing it kind of halfway, saying like, we're just going to implement this tool and this tool, right? That's kind of like, I mean, if you're a marketing agency saying, we're just going to update our website and we're going to run some social media ads, but we're not going to do that blogging stuff, and we're going to do calls to action but not landing pages, right? Like, you can't do pieces of it. You need the whole system, or else you're not going to get the results. And so I see people doing that. They kind of Mr. Potato Head it, you know, and then they're just not seeing the results, and then they're saying, well, this stuff doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work if you don't do it the right way.
So Marisa, where do you see companies that are looking, like, what are they looking to accomplish when they start looking into EOS or traction? And like, what is like true north for them as far as like, we've made it? I think you called it the ceiling, but yeah. I want to know, paint a little bit better of a picture for us.
Right. So the people who tend to decide to use EOS are those people who feel like they're hitting the ceiling, right? So they just, you know, they want to get to the next level, but they just can't seem to get there no matter how hard they try. They typically feel frustrated with their people. They feel like they're not having enough profit. They're not making as much as they want to. They don't feel like they have enough freedom. You know, they feel like their business has control of them instead of them having control of their business. Those are just some of the symptoms that we see. And so, you know, painting this picture of what 100% strong looks like in all 6 key components, that's the entrepreneurial utopia, right? It's when everybody's clear on the vision, they are all excited about, you know, where the company is headed, and they're on board with the plan to get there. You've got all the right people in the right seats. You've got a clear structure, and everybody gets, wants, and has capacity to do their job. You're managing your business based on data. You've got a pulse on your business, and, you know, you can actually go on vacation and just see this scorecard and know that everything's fine, right? You're solving issues when they come up. You're not getting stuck or bogged down with a bottleneck where, you know, everybody's bringing their issues to just you. Your whole company is good at solving issues. Your processes are documented. You're scalable. Everybody's doing it the same way, and everybody's focused and disciplined and accountable, staying, you know, laser focused on priorities, kind of in this 90-day world, running world-class meetings, keeping their commitments. Doesn't that sound amazing, right?
She's getting fired up.
Woo! And so that's really the north that people are looking for, right? Is, they want more from their business and they don't know how to get it, right? And so a lot of times it's not that they don't have a vision, it's that they don't all agree on what the vision is. It's locked in the entrepreneur's head, or it's locked in each leadership team person's head, and everybody's kind of going in different directions. And so there's a lot of friction and just wasted energy because we're not all managing our human energy in the same direction. So once we can get everybody clear on that vision, get all these tools in place and everybody's rowing, towards the same endpoint, it starts to happen, and that's the coolest thing. So from all my clients, everybody wants something different, right? Some people are like, we want to grow 10 times, our size in 3 years. And other people are like, I just want a vacation. Like, I don't care if we are 10 times bigger. I want more profit. I want to be able to be home when my kids get off the bus. That's what I want, right? And so everybody's different. We just got to articulate what that is so that we can help them get it. And that's what I really enjoy about this is, when we get that vision down on paper and a couple of years later, we're looking at it and they're going, hey, we've done that. That's just the coolest thing.
Yeah, I want to be home when my kids get home off the bus too. I just wish my kids were quieter when they got off the bus. That's what I'm going to throw out there. Here's the thing. One more question in this section. And on the interwebs, I'm sort of known for the guy that is the hashtag GSD, which is, get stuff done. Yep. What do you think I was going to say? Hey. And so what is the executable? Like, what are the things that people listening to this could do today to start to do this and start to transform their business, Marisa?
That's a great question. So, the easiest thing to do is go to the EOS Worldwide website and you can download all the tools that I'm talking about for free. And you can just, buy a copy of Traction and read the book and then use the tools that the book is describing to start, getting your vision out of your head, sketching out that accountability chart, running great meetings. Even if you just pick one tool and start using that, you're going to start seeing results. So a lot of people start with either the vision or the level 10 meeting. Those are two fairly straightforward tools to start with. Especially if you're not going to work with an implementer, you just want to, try this out and see if it works for you. There's videos on YouTube about how to run a great meeting, how to use this level 10 meeting agenda. There's a downloadable ebook, surprise, surprise, called How to Run World-Class Meetings that walks you through the whole thing. So even if you just start running your meetings better, you're going to start feeling some relief from just, that tedium that a lot of people feel about their meetings. And it starts to bring some accountability into the organization. It's kind of a good time management tool for managing the time that you're spending with your team. And so you can see a big impact just from starting with that if you want to just go start doing something. So
awesome. Now you were talking about with the vision, you're talking about the Vision Traction Organizer?
Yes.
The VTO?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Every week, we're going to send you all the links, the free downloads, the resources to help you crush your company's success. So we'll include some of these from the show notes, but then also some other tools. And once a month, we're going to send you this special deep dive content from the desks of both George and myself. So head on over to the Wayfinding Growth page and sign up today. There's a link at the bottom of every single episode. Check it out.
Yeah, you got to check it out, people. Hey, you know what else you got to check out is this week's Captain Killing It. This is where we talk about somebody on the internet is doing really awesome or they're doing a hashtag fail. And this week, because Remington, it is our show and we can do anything that we want to do, we're going to play some podcast volleyball. Now, listeners, you might be wondering what I'm talking about here, but about 2 weeks ago, I was on a podcast where somebody asked me, where did I start podcasting? And I mentioned the name Cliff Ravenscraft. And I talked about how Cliff Ravenscraft actually had videos and education that you could go to the Cliff Ravenscraft website. It was then Podcast Answer Man, and you could learn about podcasting. And so when I first started, the first podcast that I did, it was Cliff Ravenscraft that gave me that information. By the way, I'm purposely saying the name Cliff Ravenscraft a bunch of times because the story that I'm going to tell you and why it is funny that he is killing it, he is the captain killing it, is that because I gave him a shout out in the podcast, then he was interviewed by another podcaster and then started to give me a shout out on that podcast. And I kid you not that Cliff Ravenscraft probably said 23 times in about a 45-second period, George B. Thomas. And that's why Cliff Ravenscraft is killing it on the social networks and why I'm curious which one of our listeners will post on Twitter, will post on Facebook, will post on their favorite social network that George B. Thomas once again talked about Cliff Ravenscraft and how awesome he is. And by the way, now he's not so much the podcast answer man, but he likes to work with people and take their message, their business, and their life to the next level. If that's something that you're interested in, which, by the way, you're listening to the show, so it probably is, then you, my friends, should go and see, talk to, hear Captain Killing It, Cliff Ravenscraft.
So Marisa, I don't know about you, but now I need to Google this guy. So all of a sudden, he's suddenly going to have this spiking in Google traffic now as well.
I think his name's going to be running through my head all night long. So.
Awesome. All right. So we're bringing it back. So the next section is the Bermuda Triangle. So in this regard, like we talk about where people get super hung up on things. So first question, what makes this impossible for companies? Like we got this really good idea. We read the book. Where is that, like that roadblock where it just shuts off?
Shuts off. So I have to say the number one roadblock is that lack of buy-in, right? So if only a couple of people on the team are excited about it, it's just never going to get off the ground. So, definitely making sure that you have that 90-minute meeting if you can get everybody on board there and let the EOS implementer, paint that picture, answer all the questions, get everybody excited about it. You can hear I have a lot of passion when I talk about EOS. Any implementer who's going to get in the room is just going to get everybody fired up about it, and that tends to get that ball rolling, so everybody's excited about getting off the ground. If they're not, then people are going to kind of do it halfway. They're going to, do half the meetings. They're not going to get their stuff done, and it's just never going to get off the ground. So it's kind of like if you sign up for Weight Watchers and then don't actually change the way you eat, you're going to say, that the diet doesn't work. Same thing happens with EOS sometimes. I guess the other thing I see sometimes is that they just get impatient and they expect everything to be fixed, in 90 days. And it took you, 12 years to create all the issues that you have. So they are not going to get solved overnight. And so what we tell people is this is a journey. Most people take about 2 years to get all the way from, the focus day, which is the first full day session that we run with clients to help them get up and running on EOS, to, their 7th quarterly where they've gone through the process 7 times, which like you reading the book 7 times, right? It really takes 7 times of repetition before you really start to get something and it starts to feel like a habit. It's, it's second nature. Mm-hmm. And so it really does take 2 years to work through all those tools to get it pushed out throughout your whole organization. If you're a big company, it can take even longer, and so when people, start to get impatient, go, we've been doing this for 3 months and, we're not seeing results yet. Like, well, this is a journey, give it some time, and so sometimes people give up because they just feel like they're, not moving fast enough.
Sure.
And, you got to have those expectations matched with reality. So
yeah, 100%.
Right.
So who's that pirate to watch out for? Like what's someone that can just sink the ship?
Oh gosh. Well, the classic toxic employee, right? Biggest issues I see a lot of times are, family businesses can be difficult, right? Where there's something else going on. There's another dynamic beyond the business that can kind of tank the process. And honestly, I'd say the visionary, the founding entrepreneur can actually be a pretty big danger to this process as well, because they must let go of the vine if this is going to work, right? They have to start letting people take ownership of different pieces of the business. They have to get stuff out of their head. They have to kind of become obsolete in some ways, right? They need to be able to create extensions of themselves. All that knowledge that's locked in their head, they have to buy into getting it out of their head if they truly are going to get out of the middle of everything. And a lot of times those entrepreneurs, start to let go, and then they go, snatch something back. And then the person who was excited about taking that thing over is like, well, see, I can never do that because, Remington always just takes it back over. Right.
Yep. I've been known to do that in the past, but I have also been told that I'm not allowed to anymore. And it's not just my wife saying that. It's like, nope, you can't have that. That's mine. Right. All right. That's fine.
It takes a ton of discipline to be able to do it. It is not easy to let go. And so that's where I see a lot of people struggle is when, they say they want one thing, but then their behavior indicates something different. And so they're not walking the walk or walking the talk. And then the team starts to do the same thing, and then it just kind of escalates from there. So it really all starts with that founding entrepreneur. It starts with the leadership team. You got to do what you say you're going to do. And then when you start to roll it out to the rest of the company, it's much more likely to be successful than if you're expecting, something different. If your expectations are higher for other people than they are for yourselves, that's not going to work.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. So why don't you take a couple seconds to let everyone know where they can get a hold of you online? And of course, we'll share this information in the show notes too.
Sure. So my website is www.plus87plus.com. That's just my implementer website, and there's a bunch of information on there. And then the place that you should go to download the tools is www.eosworldwide.com. And you can get the tools. You can buy copies of the books. There's actually 5 books now. So there's Traction, there's Get a Grip, there's Rocket Fuel, there's How to Be a Great Boss, and there's What the Heck is EOS, which is the book that's kind of for all the employees in the company. So there's 5 books available, and you get bulk discounts on the website and all kinds of good stuff. So this is Traction. I'm going to hold it up for everybody. So there's another book called Traction with a yellow cover. Don't buy that. Well, you can buy that one, but this is the book that's all about
the orange one. If you couldn't tell by our microphones, people.
Right. So it's by Gino Wickman, and it's really the how-to manual that gives the whole overview of the system. So that's a great place to start in addition to the 2 websites I just gave out. Social, there's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/EOS Worldwide.
There you go.
There's a Facebook page.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter, but I don't do it very often. So
okay.
I know, it's blasphemy.
It's all right. It's all right. All right, George, take it away, sir.
All right. Did you see it? Did you find it? Did you reach your X that marks the spot for the treasure for your business in this episode? Look, it's been fun in this voyage of wayfinding growth. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that bell for instant notifications. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, then make sure you leave us a rating and review. Until next time, make sure you leave the dock of mediocrity and sail out for that booty of success.